Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to dive into the truly unbelievable story of how a literal joke of a business survived by doing something completely, utterly absurd. I'm honestly so excited to guide you through this, because this isn't just your standard business case study. It's a masterclass in survival, in grit, and the frankly ridiculous lengths people will go to when their backs are entirely against the wall. Picture this, okay? It's San Francisco 2008. Two guys can't pay the rent. So they do what any desperate person might do. They inflate 3 air mattresses on their apartment floor and decide to charge strangers $80 a night to sleep on them. I mean, it sounds like a punchline, right? And sure enough, a few months later, the business is almost completely dead. But to keep it alive, they do something no serious founder would ever admit to doing. They start selling cereal. So how on earth did selling breakfast cereals save a tech company? Well, let's find out. Part 1. An unlikely beginning and the descent. Let's step back for just a second and look at how founders Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia found themselves in this incredibly desperate situation. Let's look at how this builds because it perfectly maps out their rapid descent. Step 1. They arrive in the city straight out of design school, completely broke. Step 2. They notice that every time a big conference hits town, the local hotels just completely sell out. So they launch Air Bed and Breakfast to target those overflowing crowds. They throw up a super basic website, and it worked a little bit, but mostly nobody came. Step 3. They try to pitch investors, and they are either completely ignored or just told a flat, hard no. Which brings us to Step 4, hitting rock bottom. By mid-2008, they tried redesigning their site, they tried hustling, and yet they were thousands of dollars in debt, surviving entirely on credit cards. $0. This is the abyss, right here. This is exactly where most startups just quietly die. They had no product market fit, 0 investor interest, and literally nothing in the bank. Just 2 founders arguing over how to make rent in a matter of days. For most people, this is the end of the road. There's no grand story, you just pack up and go home. But Chesky and Gebbia had one very specific trait going for them. They absolutely refused to quit. Which brings us to part 2, the cereal box pivot. Because instead of quitting, they completely flipped their approach. They stopped trying to solve the massive existential problem of their failing business, and they asked a much smaller, much more desperate question. How do we make it to next month? I absolutely love this quote because it strips away all that shiny startup glamour. They weren't asking, hey, how do we scale globally? They were just asking how to keep the lights on for another 30 days. And since they were designers by trade, they decided they were going to design their way out of this immediate debt. Now, it was an election year, 2008, and the political news cycle was just everywhere. So they capitalized on that exact cultural moment by designing 2 joke cereal boxes. On the left, we've got Obama O's, the breakfast of change, representing the Democrats. On the right, Captain McCain's, a maverick in every bite, for the Republicans. They literally hand-printed and hand-glued 500 boxes of each design. And yes, they stuffed actual generic cereal inside them. They didn't take a political side at all. They just neutrally tapped into the massive energy of that Obama versus McCain election to create a fun, physical novelty product. Now you have to look at this absolutely absurd price tag. $40. $40 for a single box of generic cereal. They dragged these boxes to the political conventions and threw them up online. Just think about the audacity of that for a second. You're thousands of dollars in debt, your air mattress business is tanking, and your grand solution is selling a piece of cardboard with some cheap cereal in it for $40. But here is the crazy part. The stunt worked beautifully. They completely sold out. Political journalists bought them. Celebrities started picking them up. The media just ate the story up. Not because it was about some struggling tech startup, but because it was weird, it was fun, and it was perfectly timed to a news cycle everyone was already completely obsessed with. All in all, this wild stunt brought in roughly $30,000. It was exactly enough to buy them a few more months of sheer survival. Part 3. Earnin' the investment. But you know, the real payoff of this stunt wasn't actually the cash. $30,000 is great, sure, but it doesn't build a global company. The real value was what the cereal proved about the founders' underlying grit. Shortly after the cereal stunt, they applied to the Y Combinator Startup Accelerator. And their pitch for the air mattress business, that wasn't what got them in. The founder of YC later admitted he let them into the program strictly because of the cereal. He figured, hey, anyone stubborn and resourceful enough to fold cardboard boxes and sling political cereal just to survive has exactly the cockroach-like instinct he's looking for. They just wouldn't die. Part 4. Doing unscalable work.
All right, let's dive into the actual fix for the business itself, because getting funded didn't just magically wave a wand and solve their problems. In fact, weeks into the Y Combinator program, Airbnb was still failing, pulling in maybe $200 a week. The serial bought them time, but their core product was fundamentally broken. Most of their listings were in New York, and frankly, they were ugly. The photos were super dark, super blurry. I mean, nobody wanted to stay in those rooms. So they took 3 very unglamorous steps. Step 1, they physically got on a plane and flew out to New York. Step 2, they didn't even own the right equipment, so they had to borrow a decent camera. Step 3, they literally walked street by street, knocked on their host's doors in person, and reshot the photographs of the apartments themselves. This right here is the absolute definition of unscalable work. You can't do this for 1 million users, but you can sure do it for your first 100. And the result? Revenue doubled almost immediately. The big fix wasn't some clever tech hack, it wasn't a viral marketing campaign or a genius new line of code. It was just showing up in person, getting incredibly close to their users, and fixing the ugly, tiny details entirely by hand. By taking professional, bright, inviting photos, they finally made strangers actually feel comfortable booking a stay. Part 5, the payoff and the takeaway. From that exact moment on the ground in New York, the entire trajectory of the company just completely flipped. More hosts started signing up, more bookings flooded in, and massive funding soon followed. That deeply unscalable, door-to-door work, which, remember, was only made possible by the time they bought selling novelty cereal, transformed a desperate air mattress hustle into a global phenomenon. Today, Airbnb operates in almost every country on Earth and is valued at over $80 billion. And reportedly, a few unopened boxes of those Obama O's are still sitting right there in a glass display case at their headquarters today. Just a constant physical reminder of exactly how close they came to completely disappearing. So, as we look back at this insane journey, the crucial takeaways for anyone trying to build something are basically summarized in these 3 rules. First, buy time. Don't fake the business. When you're out of money, find a slightly ridiculous bridge to survive, but always remember it is just a bridge. Second, get funded for resolve, not the pitch. People are going to invest in your absolute refusal to quit way more than your initial idea. Because ideas change, but grit doesn't. And third, fix things by hand before you scale them. Go do the unscalable, unglamorous work that nobody else wants to do. Get super close to your problem and fix it directly. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. Every great endeavor has a moment where it almost completely falls apart, a moment that requires a genuine cereal box survival tactic. So think about your own ambitions, your own projects right now, and ask yourself, just how far would you go? What slightly ridiculous, highly embarrassing thing would you be willing to do right now just to buy your dream one more month? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.